So in my last video, I talked about Cathie Wood and her $269 million worth of Palantir buys. That video resulted in few comments about why Palantir stock is stuck and wouldn't move even after such a big buy. So in this video, I'm breaking down why Palantir is stuck and the reason behind it, and we are starting right now. So why did Palantir stock did not go up? For that, let's understand two things. And what I'm showing you here today applies to any company, not just Palantir. For price of a commodity, in this case Palantir stock, to go up, two basic things needs to happen. The stock supply needs to decline, what's available in the market needs to decline, and the stock demand needs to go up. Okay, I know it's a very simple supply and demand example, but let me break it down and this will make complete sense when we look at this example. So I have stats from three different companies that I'm going to share in just 1 second. And I'm not going to give you the names of these stocks because then you will form bias in your mind. I'm just going to show you the stats of the stock. And if I share my screen right now, these are the three stats right here that I'm showing you on your screen. So let's look at the chart and understand why Palantir did not go up even after Cathie Wood bought 11 million shares. So there are two metrics that I personally look for. Number one is right here, chart one's share outstanding and share float. So to understand it better, what is share outstanding? So outstanding shares, which include those held by the shareholders and company insiders. So to kind of have a better definition or by the book definition, share outstanding refers to a company stock currently held by all its shareholders, by all, including shares block held by institutional investors and restricted shares owned by the company's officers and insiders. That's shares outstanding. The second thing I look for is the float right here. So floating shares, which include the number of shares actually available for trading for everyone like you and me. So to kind of understand it better, this is what the definition is. It describes the total number of shares a company has issued for public trading. So these are the shares that's available for you and me to trade. Now, from a simple rule of supply and demand right here that we can see, we know that if something that is available in abundance, we would need a lot of volume to move the price of that commodity. And why do you think Bitcoin is number one? Of course, apart from being the first crypto, another reason is that it has limited supply. That means the prices will fluctuate with a little uptick in the volume. I'm not saying prices will go up. I'm saying prices will fluctuate. It could be up and down by a little uptick on the volume. So since I do not have the names, let's look at the chart one here. So chart one, or the company one, has 801 million floating shares right here that you can see on your screen. Okay, chart 2 company has 1.53 billion floating shares, and chart 3 company has 16.51 billion floating shares. Now, if you just compare the numbers, we can already tell that chart 2 and 3 right here on your screen, these two companies has more shares available to trade, and hence the volume they need to move will be higher than company 1, which has less float available. So now let's pay attention to the volume. So as you can see, company 2 that has 1.53 billion shares, the average 3-month volume is about 44.5 million shares that got traded in the average 3-month period. The same thing if you look at chart 1 right here, you can see with 801.74 million float, 21.84 million volume. So just half of this with half of the shares float. Now let's look at company 3 that has 16.5 billion float. The volume is 77.41 million. So as you can see, if you compare this with the other chart, each chart kind of shows the same picture on the volume to float ratio. The lower the float, the lower the trading volume, the higher the float, the higher the trading volume. There are a few more things that are really important, the basics like what company does and also what is the future outlook. Let's keep all that aside for just a second. Of course, those are really, really important metrics, but let's keep that aside for a second and focus on these metrics alone. Another thing to look for is the number of shares held by insider and also the lockup period. Now let's compare chart 2 and 3 right here in front of you. So chart 2 over here has 12.78% held by insiders. Total number of shares available is held by 12.78 is held by insider. Now chart 3 only has 0.07% available for insider, or are allotted to insiders. So you can see that even though company 3 or chart 3 has 16.5 billion float available, they only have 0.07% for insider, while company 2 has 1.53 billion float available, they have about 12.78% available for insiders. So this, just by looking at these two charts, you can tell that we don't have to worry too much about the insider activity on company 3 because there's not much share to be traded by the insiders. Everything is out up in the public and open. But in company 2, we have a lot of shares which is still available for insiders. I'll share the company names for these charts towards the end of the video, but let's talk about Palantir for a second. Now let's look at few other metrics. So when Cathie Wood and few others started to trade the stock, you can see, and I have it right over here, the volume of the shares. You can see the uptick in the volume. And let's compare it with the price. See, the volume right here on August 12th, when Cathie Wood started to buy Palantir, went up to about 190 million shares. Now, the average volume for Palantir is about, as you can see, 35, 50, 34 right here, 35, 37. So around, I would say 30 to 40 million every day is the average volume. Then all of a sudden, we have this uptick of 190 million shares. Now, of course, it was Cathie Wood only bought 11 million shares. So there are so many others that traded the stock. And stock went up, when the volume went up like this, stock went up to almost $24.89. That's almost 10% from the price previous day. So we had about, I would say 9%. The price jumped almost 9%. Now let's compare that with the float. So now I'm going to give you the name of the three charts. First of all, the chart 2 belongs to Palantir right here. Okay, this chart is Palantir. They have 1.53 billion float available. So now we know that Palantir has 1.53 billion float. What is 10% of 1.53 billion? 153 million. See the connection. 10% or a little over 10% shares were traded and price went up almost 9%. So if you see over here, I'm going to mark it. These are the shares traded. This is the price. And we know that this is above or greater than almost 10% than the total float available. And the price went up almost 9% when we had a trading of about 10%. So you see the correlation. When more stock got traded, the price went up. Now, this is not always the case because more buying happened on this day. That's why the price went up. Okay, the volume can come in as a sell as well. Volume can also come in as a selling, and in that case the price will go down because people are taking profit. Now we understand a little bit about the share float thing. Let's come back to your question, which was why did price not go up with Cathie's buying? There are two reasons for it. Number one, Cathie Wood did not buy enough, or the volume was not enough. For a stock like Palantir that has 1.53 billion float, volume really needs to pick. And I'm talking about like 200 plus million days for a few days, 200 plus million share days or trading days for a few days in order for price to move up, say from $20 to $30. It's just $10 if you look at it in the bigger picture, but that's almost 50% jump. And that is not easy to attain by a company which has that many float available. It's only possible if everybody started to jump in and start to buy the stock. That's why this short squeeze and all those things, AMC and GameStop saga that we heard about, that's what happened. The volume just went up like crazy and more buying activity happened, and that's why the price just kept going up and up on those stocks. Now, the second reason right here is that insider selling. As I mentioned, the second chart is held by, right here is Palantir. They have about 12.78% of the stock available to insiders. So now if you see over here, right when Cathie Wood was buying, there were a lot of insiders that were selling the shares as well. At this point, let me reveal the name of all the companies. So number one chart was of Tesla, number two was Palantir, and number three was Apple. So as you can see, Apple, even though they have 16.5 billion float, they only have 0.07 held by insiders. So there will not be a huge activity of insider dumping all their shares because, again, this is a mature old company. If you look at Tesla over here, it has even higher share held by insiders, but because the float is low, that's why even with a little volume or half the volume of Palantir, the stock price goes up drastic. And of course, what the company is doing, what kind of news they're coming along, and people are super bullish on Tesla. And of course, it's also added to S&P 500, which is of course a big deal. Okay, so now let's look at the insider selling that I mentioned. So take a look at this chart. While Cathie Wood was drying up the market with her 11 million shares, Palantir management was offloading few. see the chart. I kind of took the chart from 721 right here. And as you can see, Alex sold about 638,000 share here, 638 here, 11,000 here. Alex Karp sold these two, then Alexander D. Moore sold 11,000, then Alex came and sold more, and then 11, 12, 13, 17, 20, all these dates, a lot of shares were offloaded in the market. So all these shares now all of a sudden became available for the market to trade. Now, even though Cathie Wood was buying some shares or restricting some shares in her portfolio, 11 million shares, there were a lot that became available in the market, and people see the price going up. They were also taking the profit, and that's why we see this huge volume day on almost 190 million share. Now, if you correlate with all the volume days over here, anytime the volume has gone up, look, it was 35 million on, I would say, August 17th. Right the next day, it went up to 92 million, and look at the price, it jumped again. So anytime the volume has gone up, the price has gone up as well with it. Right here from 35 million to 37, 24.80 to 25.10. This is a good sign because that means there are more buyers than sellers, even though the price has seen some downturn since all-time high recently. But that's a good sign. That means more people have bought and are holding, because if the volume just went up like crazy and stock price dropped, that means more selling activity that happened. So here's what I have to say. We will continue to see this insider selling till the end of 2021, as they have so many shares to offload. And of course, from the chart that I see, Alex Karp has almost 7 million shares still holding, and that he can offload any day. And I think his expiration is December 2021. So we can see him come in and sell these shares. So now when we have all these shares available and all of a sudden, then of course, this will cause too much supply in the market and the demand will decrease and the price will go down. For now, again, I'm still big bullish on the company, still holding few thousand shares strong. And in the next video, I'll be talking about how I take advantage of Palantir's sudden jump, doesn't matter up or down, and still make money. So do check out that video. I'm going to be releasing it. That's my next release, where I'll talk about how I make consistent money on Palantir stock. So if you got some value out of the video, then please hit the like button, consider subscribing so you don't miss out our next video. I recently did a video on Palantir and Cathie Wood buys that I discuss in this. I'll link it up here. If you haven't checked it out, then please make sure that you do watch that video. It's some good information there. As always, thank you for joining. Love you all. Until next time, you all have a sparkling day.